Chakotay's in sick bay with a case of the brain voices. In this instance, those voices are apparently a communication attempt from an alien species we've met. Whoever they are, the attempt is going poorly, and he's reduced to screams about shutting them up. Janeway wants to know how things are going and gives them a call, though this isn't just idle curiosity. We're in something called chaotic space, a name that doesn't fill me with hope for the quality of the story, but let's try to be neutral. At least it's not a holodeck episode. Chaotic space is causing damage to Voyager, and we see this through a wibbly-wobbly but relatively minor distortion effect. The sort of thing that would be difficult to show in a screenshot and force someone making reviews to use a clip and risk angering the copyright gods, so thanks for that. Those voices are important, as Chakotay seems to have been chosen as a conduit of some kind, and talking to the native life of this place is the best chance for survival, what with us being trapped and all. The Doc thinks the best way of helping Chakotay to endure this event is by talking through what caused him to be here, so let's have a flashback to where he was injured, on the holodeck. Fuck my life. It's a recreation of a boxing gym from Chakotay's time at the academy, and just to prove it, here's Boothby, who's acting as his trainer. Roses for Janeway, sparring with Chakotay. It's a wonder the bastard managed to get any groundskeeping done. Anywho, punching happens, then a little break for a nice chat, then some more punching. Perhaps a little bit too much punching, in fact, as Chakotay sees the area behind his opponent fracture and spread, each shard giving a distorted view. Then he gets knocked on his arse. He wakes in sickbay with the Doc giving a lecture on how pointlessly barbaric two people knocking the shit out of each other is, while he waves that glowing potato peeler we saw Paris using in Season 4. Chakotay mentions seeing something odd to the Doc, who also notes that he's showing some curious symptoms, consistent with being hit by an energy weapon. You could argue that's technically what happened when a hologram punched him, but I guess this isn't what he means. That'll all have to wait. Some shaking brings with it a summons by Janeway, so off Chakotay goes to the bridge. There he finds her struggling to avoid a wibbly-wobbly. It keeps moving around randomly and is throwing out some weird readings. Attempts to avoid it fail, but Paris is flying, so based on his record for landing shuttles, there's a 50-50 chance he just flew straight into the fucking thing. It's Seven's turn this time to do the summoning, and we all pop down to astrometrics. She recognises the wibbly-wobbly from her time with the Borg. They call it chaotic space, perhaps explaining why I thought the name was so uninspired. The Borg aren't exactly known for having the souls of poets. She says a number of Borg D6s have been lost to this thing, with only one ever having survived. I'd have asked how they escaped personally, but nobody seems to care, so let's move on. The first order of the day is to science the shit out of our sensors so we can see what's happening, and we all go off to work on that. We're working individually from the looks of things, as Chakotay is alone in his quarters. Work takes a back seat when he hears Boothby and sees boxing gloves on a chair. Hallucinations all related to the alien stuff we saw at the start. We don't get to find out as Tuvok calls him to the bridge. Naturally, a glance back from the door shows the gloves have gone. Up on the bridge, nothing much has changed. Janeway's not there either, so maybe her doing science things is more important than her doing captain things right now. The real reason, of course, is so that we can have the spectacle of Chakotay losing his shit with an audience. A look at chaotic space through the view screen brings back Boothby's voice, and he sees boxing gloves on Kim's console. Boothby wants him to put them on, so I'm guessing this is the method by which our new aliens want to speak. Instead, he starts throwing punches at Tuvok, who gives precisely 0 shits and then incapacitates him. I guess Chakotay's more of a freedom lover than a freedom fighter. To sick bay, and Janeway's checking up on Chakotay. There we learn that Chakotay's family history has a neurological disorder that can cause hallucinations. A doctor turned that particular gene off when he was still a fetus, but it started back up again, maybe due to our current situation. We'll know when we leave, I guess, but until we do, Chakotay gets to have a stay in sick bay. Back on the bridge, we're going to have a go at legging it. We've got sensors working again, probably, and it doesn't look like there's anything to hit if we try to scarp her. Instead of the exit, we find a derelict ship. Maybe they can provide some answers. They've got data for us, but all of it's bad. The captain and an engineer started hallucinating like Chakotay, and their doctor wasn't able to find a solution. Despite having better sensors than us, they remained trapped for a year and eventually all carked it when the damage caused by wibbly-wobbly space bollocksed up their ship. We're going to nick information on their sensors to upgrade ours, and the Doc wants the corpse of their captain too, so we can run a post-mortem and see if there are any clues. The answer is yes and no. The captain we're examining had some genetic changes that made them hallucinate in much the same way as Chakotay, but we still don't know how. Chakotay thinks the best course of action now is to go on a vision quest, perhaps concluding that if he's going to be tripping balls anyway, he might as well do it the way he's familiar with. The doc advises against it, but Janeway agrees, so let's strap a flashy gizmo on his neck and away we go. We're in a forest where Chakotay meets his grandfather, a figure we've been told suffers from the neurological condition that was treated in Chakotay. There's a little banter before his granddad gets bored and just buggers off. Chakotay follows and finds himself in the Academy boxing ring, only a corrupted version with poor lighting and shit props to make the viewer associated with the distortions we saw before. Chakotay wakes to discover he's in sickbay, so I presume we're back in the present, as his vision quest was in his quarters. He explains the aliens were trying to tell him something, and the something is science bollocks, science bollocks, science bollocks. The voices get too loud, and he goes back to shouting before he's able to explain how the science bollocks can be made useful. Janeway pops down to check on progress and is told of Chakotay's data dump by the doc. She doesn't understand it either, which is reasonable if chaotic space operates with different logic to what we normally experience. Unfortunately, that means we're left waiting for Chakotay to make contact again so the aliens can walk us through things, and Chakotay doesn't want to talk to them anymore, concerned it'll make him like his granddad. A chat and a gentle slap from Janeway convince him to continue, so once more into memories of the vision quest we go. We're in that uneven boxing ring again. Visions of all the people he knows from Voyager are trying to convince him not to fight, while Boothby argues in favour of it. Some running while training returns him to the forest with his grandfather, who at least seems neutral in the matter. The voices follow and he runs some more to find himself back in the ring. Boothby still wants him to go on with it, but Vision Dog calls off the match. Chakotay wakes in his quarters to find the doc with him, but he's pissed off at being brought out of it. Looks like he'd made the decision to fight and wants to go back under. He gets his wish, but in the wrong way, as the doc sedates him. Voyager is trying to do things by brute force. We're flying straight forward while shitting out beacons, their signal hopefully helping us to keep track of where we've been. The name Chaotic Space may be insipidly boring, but it is at least accurate, and Voyager finds itself facing one of the beacons it previously launched. Janeway concedes that this may not be the way to escape, instead ordering us to halt. Looks like we'll be waiting for the instructions relayed through Chakotay after all. Or maybe not. Seven's been sciencing chaotic space all the way she knows how, and might have found a bit of order. A regular flashy thing looks to be a signal of some kind, but Seven can't decrypt it. No need, says Janeway, as she recognises it from a Starfleet Academy exam, which, yeah, alright then, sure, anything to get this over with. She says it's a frequency that turns on DNA, so naturally essential knowledge for cadets. That suggests the alteration in Chakotay's DNA is deliberate, and he tells her it's a contact attempt from the aliens who live here. Janeway's starting to wonder if all this boxing bullshit might have been what the aliens gathered from Chakotay when they first tried to make contact, and now they're using it as a framework for making us understand. That would explain why Chakotay wants to go into the ring so much. The doc warns her that allowing this to continue could cause permanent harm. I'd argue that dying here is a significantly greater permanent harm, and Janeway seems to agree before leaving for the bridge. As Voyager is dodging some of the more serious wibbly-wobblies, Chakotay pops into his vision quest/hallucination for a chat and some more punching. As he and his opponent circle each other in the ring, the aliens communicate with him using his memories of other people talking. We quickly establish that yes, we're lost, and yes, we want to get the fuck out of here, thank you very much. They manage to get most of the information to him, but he has a bit of a panic and wakes. The doc convinces him to keep trying, and he gets the rest of what we need before Chakotay runs out of sickbay and to the bridge. Explaining would take too long, so he wants to make the adjustments himself. A ranting man who wants to fuck about with Voyager's systems is a tough sell, but Janeway's willing to give him a chance. Science things happen and Voyager escapes chaotic space, as Chakotay does a little bit of falling over from the strain. As a reward, Janeway gives him a couple of days off. Then she takes them back again when she realises he plans to spend them boxing on the holodeck. She thinks that if he's well enough to punch someone in the face, he's well enough to make life or death decisions about the running of a spaceship carrying weapons of mass destruction. With the spare time he has left, he enters the gym to do some holo violence, and we leave him punching an alien as we fly away. Well, this is a fucking stinker, isn't it? If the script was an attempt to adequately represent chaotic space, then it certainly succeeds, as the result is a disjointed mess. Multiple chronological jumps certainly don't help the situation, muddying the waters for no real gain. Again, if it was an attempt to represent chaos, then it works, but the story is worse as a result. Narrative theming is all well and good, except when the theme is antithetical to the logical progression of the narrative. Having Chakotay be the subject of the episode strikes me as a questionable decision too. When you actively embrace one form of voices in your head, I'd argue that makes you the best equipped to deal with other forms of voices in your head. Tacking on his fear being caused by a relative might have been more impactful if we'd ever heard of them before. Just pulling, "oh, and I'm terrified of going insane because of my granddad" out of the bag feels like the egregious MacGuffin that it is. What makes these choices all the more curious is that the writer of this episode was also responsible for Counterpoint, one of Season 5's strongest showings and a story that I greatly enjoyed. He also wrote In the Pale Moonlight, considered by many, myself included, to be the finest episode of Deep Space Nine, so we can only guess at what happened here. I've read a report that some members of the writing team on Voyager weren't always treated with the respect they deserved, so maybe that had something to do with it. Or maybe he just had an off day. We're all allowed those now and again, and his hits far outweigh his misses. Negativity aside, the communication from the aliens using lines taken from the episode was a nice touch at least. I'll give points for that even if it's not a particularly original idea for portraying discordant communication. It reminds me of a character called the Master from the video game Fallout, released nearly 2 years prior to this. They also spoke with a jumping selection of voices, though I've no doubt there are far earlier examples, and I'd invite you to stick your own in the comments. It'd be interesting to see where the idea originated. Another positive for me is the Doc singing different frequencies to test Chakotay's hearing. It's a nod to his previous operatic tendencies, ones that we've not heard much about since his catastrophic program error in the Swarm at the start of Season 3. There was a hint towards recovery in that episode, and he confirmed that the process was ongoing in the Future's End two-parter, so we'll be sticking this in the continuity category and giving a few points. Unfortunately, those positives aren't nearly enough to elevate this episode overall. It's the low point of the season so far, and frankly a pretty good contender for a slot in the bottom 5 of the whole series. Let's hope the next one can get us back on track. End of episode.
We're supposed to be on a ship of science run by a technologically advanced civilization. How the bloody hell are the replicators haunted?
Possessed.
You what?
They're not haunted, they're possessed. It's the cargo bay and holodeck doors that are haunted. That's why they make a weird noise.
There are ghosts in the doors.
Banshees actually. The ghosts are in the turbo lifts.
For fuck's sake, how many supernatural beings are on Voyager?
22, no, wait, 23. I forgot the Doc was a poltergeist. The hologram thing is just cover.
Jesus Christ.
No, we don't have him. He's on the Enterprise. Woof.